Okay, well, we're back. We have Dr. Rachel. I think I used her previous name when I introduced her earlier in the segment, Ellard. She's now Dr. Rachel Sue. Congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
Dr. Rachel also goes as the exotic pet vet on social media. She is a small animal and exotic veterinarian. She attended Texas A&M for vet school and currently practices in Dallas. She has over 650,000 followers on TikTok and 130,000 on YouTube. She's a big thing.
Which is 130,000 more viewers than I have.
Exactly. She's pretty much the go-to resource for super educational and cool videos for everything exotic. So thank you for coming on to our podcast.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
I'm your pump up girl. So tell our viewers, what does it mean to be an exotic pet vet? Like, what's your day-to-day like?
So I work with exotic pets. A lot of people don't realize that it's not just birds and reptiles, but it's also the small furry creatures. In veterinary medicine, rabbits and ferrets and guinea pigs are also considered exotic. But I also work with a ton of birds, poultry too, not just parrots, and then lots of lizards and snakes. So every day is a new day whenever I go into work.
And I love the I don't know if it's is it a faux pas term in the exotic world, but like pocket pets, like the little hamsters and gerbils and stuff.
Yes, I mean I call them pocket pets, yeah. And a lot of other exotic vets do.
So cute.
So what is the most common animal that you'll work with?
I would say it's pretty evenly split between 30% birds, 30% pocket pets, and then 30% reptiles.
It's so cool. I don't know if that I'm the biggest, I think birds kind of scare me a little bit, but as I told you when you came to visit me here, I do really like snakes. I think they're so cool. And I know
Lauren
you have
just wants to have babies, so she has an excuse to get our child a snake when really I know.
Well, Rachel, how many snakes do you have personally?
I only have 2 right now.
Okay, 2 right now.
Only two.
But they're very cool. So tell us about what are some of the more common disorders you might see those species for?
So a lot of exotic pets come in due to disorders or diseases caused by poor husbandry. But then there's some other common things that affect each different species. So with birds, with parrots, we see a lot of feather picking, a lot of obesity actually due to poor diet. A lot of people feed their parrots a full feed diet, which is like feeding them candy. And they also get heart disease from this. We also see egg binding, especially with chickens, bumblefoot, which is when they have sores on their feet. With snakes and lizards, we see a lot of respiratory infections, mouth rot, troubles with shedding, a lot of metabolic bone disease in lizards, unfortunately.
And that's usually due to dietary imbalances, right?
Yes, so metabolic bone disease will happen because of either improper UVB lighting or not supplementing enough calcium. And basically their bones become, really weak and rubbery because they have no calcium or they can't metabolize it. So that's pretty commonly caused due to husbandry, unfortunately. And then with our, pocket pets, we see a lot of dental disease because their teeth are always growing. We see some parasites, ringworm and mites, and respiratory infections, reproductive problems. So those are, some pretty common things that we deal with.
So a variety of different things. And it sounds like, she kept referring to husbandry.
Yeah, well, we were just talking
David,
about...
do you know what husbandry
No,
is?
I was just talking about how Lauren and I got into a nice fight on the way over here, so I thought I was bad husbandry, but what exactly is that?
So husbandry is basically how you take care of the pet. What is their diet? What is their enclosure, their housing like? Their supplements, their lighting, just how you interact with them. It's kind of an encompassing term for how you take care of them.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the diseases that Rachel deals with are a function of people, not necessarily maliciously, but really just not knowing how to properly take care of exotics. Because, honestly, compared to dogs and cats, there's so much more that goes into taking care of exotics, and keeping them not just alive, but in good health. Like anyone can feed their cat or dog some food. It might not be the best quality, but they're probably going to do okay. But like if you have a, a reptile and you don't know how to take care of it, things can go wrong really fast.
So
They're just so much more sensitive.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Rachel. What is the big difference then from working with exotic animals versus cats and dogs?
Oh, I think there's, like I said, there's such a variety, and the fact that each one is different. So with dogs and cats, there's pretty much, everyone knows how to take care of them, and it's pretty straightforward. There's diets that are for dogs and cats, and they live at room temperature, and you interact with them. But for exotics, it's like each one is different. You really need to know for each species, what temperature do they live at? What is their specific diet? What is their specific lighting requirements? Dogs and cats don't require specific light, but reptiles, they need UV light, or some species of reptiles need UV light in order to survive. So you need to really know the specific requirements for each individual species, which can make it hard to be an exotic pet veterinarian.
Yeah, it's like a lot of detail. I mean, even I remember in vet school, well, the exotics course, I just remember memorizing like millions of facts because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to remember all this? But we also had to like take home different exotic pets. That was part of our like learning and understanding, which in hindsight, I don't know was the best idea because they probably don't do well with traveling to different houses. But I do remember like I had like sugar gliders in my living room, and I was like, holy, like to take care of them is just so detailed. I had this like giant list of things, and they were like,
those aren't one of the species.
They're one of the easiest.
No, they aren't.
So no, they aren't. Yeah,
probably not one that I would want to learn on.
And they were in my living room, I remember. Oh my gosh, and they were just like they're like nocturnal, right? So they were. I think they were making babies in my living room all night because I was kept up, and my cat was like, "What the hell is going on?" Yeah, they did. I think they ended up having babies by the end of the year. So somewhere along the way, I don't think I took them out of the enclosure though, because I was terrified.
Yeah, no, they're not, the easiest to take care of or the easiest to work with for, as a vet.
For sure. So what are the most common mistakes that you see pet owners making? Like the reason why you see pets over and over again that you wish you could just say, don't do this.
Well, the most common thing is just people not doing their research before, they buy their pet, them not having the proper, the proper enclosure, the proper diet. And a lot of people, they buy these pets for their kids because they think, oh, they're easy to take care of, or they're small and they're cheap, and, the kid can take care of everything. And a lot of people, they don't monitor their kids as far as are they taking care of the pet right? And so they bring them in and they're on death's door because they just weren't being given the attention or the oversight that they really should have. So yeah, we see a lot of people bringing in their exotic pets because they think they're easy, but they're really not. They make mistakes when it comes to taking care of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. So do your research. I mean, I think it's oftentimes for people, such a spontaneous decision. They're at the pet store and they see, like you said, they're not expensive, but to keep them alive, you have to be very knowledgeable.
Yes. Unfortunately, they are often bought on a whim with, and the pet stores don't do a great job at teaching owners either when they buy them. And unfortunately, people aren't doing it to be malicious, but they just aren't informed as much as they should be when they're making such a big decision as, getting a pet.
And so maybe like would you suggest if someone were to go out and get one of these exotics, booking an appointment with their veterinarian to go through all the specific requirements that pet needs?
Oh, 100%. I always say, bring your pets in for wellness visits, bring them in as soon as you buy them so you know exactly what you're getting into, and we can walk you through the husbandry that we recommend and make sure that they're healthy from the get-go, because a lot of people buy these pets and they're sick to begin with because they hide signs of illness so well that it's really easy to be sold them when you don't really when you think that they're healthy but they're really not, and it causes a lot of heartbreak when unfortunately they don't do well. And one thing with exotic medicine is that unfortunately we do deal with a lot more death than dogs and cats because they just don't get brought in until they're really on death's door a lot of times, and they're just so fragile. So there's a lot of unfortunately euthanasias that happen, or they pass away due to poor health.
And even just like the stress of handling, like you said, they hide things so well. And I remember learning, like, a bird comes in, like, I mean, you touch a bird the wrong way, it like it can stress, so if they're already
they're like
sick.
Horses, they don't do well. They get stressed so easily, and they hide signs of illness. They're often they look healthy on the outside, but then they're unhealthy on the inside, and just a little bit of stress can unfortunately tip them over the edge.
Yeah.
Well, this actually leads into a great listener question that we had for you, which was, what is the hardest exotic pet to work with?
A lot of people are afraid of working with birds for that reason. And there's some people prefer big birds and some people prefer smaller birds. The difference, obviously the bigger birds are a little bit more stable. They're just, bigger and can handle anesthesia a little bit better. But they're also really scary for some people to work with. Like the really big macaws, they can hurt you. But the really tiny birds, although they don't necessarily, bite as hard and can't draw as much blood, they're also a lot more fragile. And even drawing blood, you can't take as much blood from them. The amount that you can really draw from them to run any type of blood work is almost, a lethal dose if you're doing a budgie like a parakeet. So they're a lot more fragile under anesthesia and just, handling them. The birds are pretty challenging, I would say. Unless, chickens, I really like chickens because they're pretty hardy pets.
And what about, like, is there any exotic that you're scared of? Because I know you work with lots of these, exotic animals. So are there any of them that you're scared of? Like, I know a lot of vets are, like, scared of snakes. So.
Oh, I love snakes. And honestly, their bites are nothing compared to dogs and cats. Like I always say, I'm more scared of dogs and cats than I are really any exotic because, you probably know that their bites are just filled with bacteria and they can really hurt you. But snakes, the smaller snakes, their bites are just like nothing. Like they barely draw blood, they barely get infected because they don't have much bacteria in their mouths. So I love snakes compared to I'm not scared of them as much as I am of fractious dogs and cats. But as far as are there any exotics that I'm scared of? Monkeys can be pretty scary if they're not one, trained well, and then two, just the diseases that they carry are way more, dangerous to people just because they're more closely related to us.
Do you get a lot of monkeys that come in?
Not often, but every now and then we do.
Yeah, I worked at like a primate research center in vet school, and they were macaques, so old world monkeys, which can have herpes B virus, and like if you get infected with herpes B virus, it can be very fatal. And so I was terrified that we had to like wear these hazmat suits, double glove, like, and I remember one time I was helping with like a birth, and the little baby like somehow got its little hand underneath my like hazmat suit, and I was like freaking out because I was so scared of herpes B virus.
Yeah, I mean, for good reason. They're serious. So, we don't see primates very often, but unfortunately they are legal to own in Texas and people get them. So, and, they don't make good pets. I don't recommend them, but we do see them because they need care. No one else is going to see them.
I feel like in Texas, like Texas, I feel like in terms of like what's legal to own, I feel like of all the states, you probably have like the craziest laws.
There's like no laws basically to prevent you from owning anything. I mean, you could own venomous snakes, you can own primates, you can own tigers. It's really sad what people can do without any regulation.
So
and do you ever
tigers,
see
big cats? Like you'll get that coming in on a regular basis, Tiger King
No,
style?
I mean we see what get through the door, and tigers are not something that we will see.
Yeah, I think that's probably, you're like, we draw the line.
Yeah, we do see some of the smaller exotic cats, like servals or, the hybrids. We'll see those.
I mean, I have a patient that's a serval. Because here,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but it's terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I work with her, she had kidney failure and I have to see her. And when she comes in, we have to basically sedate her through her muscle because she, she's feisty. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks and she only let me and my technician go into her little quarters. Everyone else was like terrified.
Wow.
Yeah, but
so those can be challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, I this is a very random thing to bring up, but this was just sent to me right before you got on the line, and I want to determine if you think there's any truth in this. So it's a text message, and it says, "My sister's a veterinary student. A little girl brought her a hamster because it hadn't moved for 3 days and just sat on the outside of the cage, wouldn't eat or drink anything." Do you know where I'm going with this already? Have you seen this?
I do. Yes, I've heard it.
Okay, I'll finish this for the listeners,
But
and I want to
continue.
hear you chime in. So she asked her if anything had happened that may have caused this to be the case. And the girl said it escaped for a couple days, but they found him underneath the fridge. So they took a look at the hamster. They put him on the table, and he's walking around, eating, drinking, seems to be completely fine. At that point, they noticed there's something strange in his cheek pouch to notice that, yes, indeed, he had eaten a fridge magnet. So it turns out the only thing wrong with the hamster was that there was a fridge magnet in his cheek and he was stuck to his metal cage. Do you think there's any truth in that?
Honestly, I could believe something like that happening. It's not completely unbelievable. It would take a lot, like a very strong magnet. But they say that hamsters die in the most traumatic ways. Unfortunately, there's a TikTok, trend going on where people just say like how their hamster died. They say that hamsters died traumatically, unfortunately.
Oh my God, that's such a sad trend.
Yeah. But they just, people get them and they get out of their enclosures and they find ways to unalive themselves, unfortunately.
Well, during that time that I had to take the pets home, I did have to take a hamster home, and it was one of the ones that I was like, okay, maybe I'll interact with this one, like I'm okay. And I opened up its little cage and I put my finger in to say hi to it, and he like freaking latched onto my finger so hard. And then obviously my gut reaction is to like pull my hand out, and he was still attached, so he like flung across my bedroom. And then I was like, I can't be the vet student who lost the hamster. So I'm like scrambling to try and get him. And then I did get him. Like I managed to get him in like a little cup and put him back in. And that was the last time I like opened the cage except for to feed him.
Yeah, I mean, some hamsters are really nice, but some, if they're not worked with a lot, they can be pretty feisty.
Yeah.
They're not like the first choice pocket pet that I would recommend.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking just the last question before we go. We were talking about your amazing social media presence. You've got a lot of viral videos online. Which video for you has garnered the most attention?
Ooh, I would say people love the popping videos. The abscesses just really, really get people excited.
Yeah.
I have a box turtle video where, turtles get oral abscesses sometimes, which means abscess in their ear canal. And we lanced it, and all the pus came out, and people really enjoyed that. I like the abscess videos too. I think they're really fun. They're gross, but they're also satisfying.
Yeah. People like the grossest stuff. Like for me, people always like my, pulling things out of dogs, your abscesses. I also really like your videos that are the digesting. You digest skeletons too with
Yes.
Those are cool.
I have a hermit beetle colony. And these are the beetles that clean specimens for, museums, skeletons. And I cleaned a couple, specimens such as snakes or turtles or some skulls. And, they're pretty satisfying to watch, to just be cleaned very cleanly. And to me, it seems like it's kind of like a work of art at the end.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool. The time lapse. I love your videos like that. Well,
Thank you.
If you want to check out Rachel's videos, definitely check her out. Exotic Pet Vet. She's all over social media. Literally like the coolest stuff. Everything exotic. Thank you so much for coming onto our show and telling us and our listeners all about your life as an exotic pet vet. And maybe sometime we can have you back and talk about some things, more specifically in more details, certain species.
Oh, yes, I'd love to. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.